Right, it's palette knife tonight and I am sitting. I normally stand to paint, much prefer it, and I get much less paint on myself. But because the pupils are going to be sitting in the classroom where I'm teaching this lesson, I am going to sit tonight too. So we are going with palette knife. Now I am also going to paint with these knives because they are the knives that I will be giving the young people to paint with, the same as if there's adults in the palette knife class. These are the ones you paint with. So these are really inexpensive. $1.99 will buy you the set and they will last you a very long time. They are the same really as what I use normally, only mine are metal. Okay, so it's the same sort of shapes, and the palette knife that I use most often, even for the large pieces, is generally that one. I do like a square head one as well, and this one. See, fairly similar. So instead of square head, there's still a straight line in this one. The only one is this one. Like, look how clean that is in comparison to my others. It's the same here. The one knife I don't like using. I have never found a use for this knife, and I'm sure there's loads of people who really like it, artists who really depend on it, but it's not for me. And if it's not for you, why bother using it? But the option is there anyway. Just I'm never really sure what to do with it. So these plastic ones are quite flexible and bendy, and they take a wee while to get used to, whereas my metal ones are much harder. So if you lean into a painting, it bends back slightly. Palette knife is all about pressure. It's knowing when to leave off the pressure so that you're getting a nice thick paint, and knowing when to lean into it to scrape out and score out and practice a technique called sgraffito. Layering on is impasto, and I've said that before in the painting tutorial. This one will be a lot quicker, thanks be to goodness, you say, because I have showed you your colour mixing, and we are generally going to hit it with the same format. So we're going to go with jug first, fruit second, build it up in exactly the same way. So we'll not stop and start as much, and there'll probably be quite a wee bit of it will be in time lapse, but you will know where I am heading if you've done the previous video. So I will explain as we go along, but then I'll not make you watch me. My goodness. There's nothing worse, is there? You'd rather be doing it yourself. So you can see I already have my background on. So there's a slight ripple in the paper that you can see. Oh, it's over this way. And that's only because there's a wet medium on paper. This wouldn't happen on canvas or canvas board because it is rigid. It's just because the paper, when soaked, has a stretch. But same with watercolor. I have it taped down. So when it dries out, I will not take that off until it is completely dry. It'll be nice and flat again. Okay, let's get ready to get started. So I have my background already on. The same as before, I have concentrated on the general colour. I wanted this sort of linen colour that the background is. And I have looked at the folds in the fabric, the lights and the darks. There will be less detail again with this. We're going for an even more abstracted view of what is in front of us. But let's get going. My same palette from yesterday, all I did was spray it, put it in the box, and ready to go tonight again. You will use more paint with the palette knife. It's a given, okay? Because you're layering it on thick and you're scraping off and layering on, and then you're going to wipe it off on a bit of tissue. You could use, I know some people don't like throwing stuff out, that's the waste. Well, if you rub it off on a tea towel or something that you think you can use again, you can't, because it's plastic. You wash it and it's still hard, there's no soak off it. So you can wash it off, dip it in there, wipe it on tissue, and I would use the same piece of kitchen roll for about a month, so I mean, I think that's okay. Right, let's go here. We're going to put this, hopefully my shoulder's not going to be in your road. We're going to put in, do you remember that light colour, the green? We're going to go with that first of all. Now I'm going to add a little bit of white into it first of all. See how I've loaded up my palette knife. I put the white on first and then I scraped into my green, and I am going to put it in here. Okay, so got it on. There is less control. You can't be a control freak with this here. You just have to feel your way, and loads of people really hate the palette knife because there is so little control with it. But once you get onto it, I guarantee you'll find it freeing if you just give it a wee go. Okay, now got general shaping. There's my lip. Bring it down. I'm gonna bring it down a wee bit more than last night because I think it could be longer and thinner than it was, but you're learning. See any mistakes the first time, change for the second time. Now I'm going to bring it down here. Now it's dark getting under there. I'm going to work in around that. So hopefully you can already see we have got the shape of a jug. So there's a wee lip in there. It's darker here. Now I'm easing off with pressure. I'm barely touching the page, and you can see how it is nice and dark. Whereas if I'm scraped down in, takes the paint away. All right, so all right pressure. So if you watched in the previous videos, I will say sometimes I will give out a rubber glove. It's for that reason, so that you can really feel different pressures on the page. Now, I am going to build that up in greens, dark greens, lighter greens, little bits of white. And then the same as I did yesterday in the paintbrush painting, I will then start to add in little bits of pinks and purples just in the reflections. Okay, so I will work at that. Where am I going to put? Handle comes about here, I think. It's coming right out. I'm using my palette knife to draw, and I am bringing it in right there. Good. Remember where the light's coming from? It's coming from this side, so everything on this side is going to be darker. Okay, it's much darker in here under the handle. Definite bits of dark there. If your green's not dark enough, remember you darken it by adding in blue. You lighten your green by adding in yellow. Get that in there, in a handle. Get up. Lemon's in there, so we're not going to worry too much about it because that's going to be covered. And out round your handle. Remember, no point in being too precious about it because I can't possibly get really accurate lines and dots and dashes and wee fiddly bits with this. I'm just generally looking for the shape. Now, I'm going to change colour. So I'm going to wipe off my palette knife. Okay, you could dip it in water, wipe it off if you want, but then you end up with a really soggy, wet napkin. And I'm going to add in a little bit of pink. Okay, so I can see a reflection of pink, so there's pink thing off this side reflecting off it. I'm going to put just in there. Lean in nice and lightly. Going round. Okay, now I'm putting in a lighter blue. A little bit of blue, so my blue from last night has been all used up. So I'm going to make some more. So the cadmium blue and some white. I'm going to add that in around the bottom. I think this is much quicker than the brush. A prep piece in a palette knife would take me a lot less time than a brush because I'm not at all tempted to get bogged down in the detail. Okay, right, what I'm going to do now is I am going to work on a little bit at that, get everything in the right order, and we'll meet again when we're going to do the fruit. Video disaster there. People kept phoning me and cut the video off and I hadn't realised, so you missed my lemon bit. But really all I've done is I've put in the base. I put in yellow, the bits of yellow where the limes are. And then I have worked with the next colour, which is orange, putting in the shadows. Okay, so that's basically all that I have done. I've just positioned the fruit where it's at, and I'm really just observing where the darks and the lights are. Mixing up a lime green now, because I'm going to go for the limes. Okay, now, again, so I've been talking to a camera there for ages that wasn't even recording. But what I was saying was you just have to be okay with it not being as accurate as you want, because it's a knife. And you're constantly having to move yourself because the knife is very straight edge. It's not like a brush with tiny bristles and a pointed end. You just have to work with it. And you might think you hate it at the start, but keep coming back to it and I guarantee you will grow to really love it. Okay, so there we go. I have dark. I'm going for a darker green this time, so I'm still working off all of the colours that I had mixed last night. I've had to mix no new ones whatsoever, so that's great. Just shows you not to waste your paint, but a wee spray and you will be able to use it again. So what I'm doing here is I am just drawing into the paint my little segments with the dark colour, but because there's so much paint on it, I'm able to scratch away as well. Just looking at where the darkest bits are. Okay. So, because it's quite shiny, it's hard to see perhaps, but I'll give a close up at the very end. Right, I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to wipe off my knife. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw into it. Okay. I'm going to scratch away some of these wee lines, these wee segments. So scratch them around here as well. There we go. Super. Right. Now, darker green for the lime. Then, look at where it's darkest. Up here at the top. And the sides. And as it dries, you're able to layer on, but this is a nice bit here where you're able to manipulate the paint that you've already put down and draw nicely into it. Now, there we go. I'm going to put the tiniest wee bit of that down in here as a start of a wee shadow, and also your lemon and your lime need a shadow. So start to note it in there with the green. Now remember, your jug is metal, has a shine to it. There's going to be a reflection onto it, so there's a tiny bit of green reflecting on here. And then your lemon in behind there. There. Super. Now, I'm going to work on a wee bit. So into my lemons and my limes, I might add a little bit of purple. So the complementaries are the colour opposite each other on the colour wheel. Just a wee reminder. They work really well together to make each other stand out or pop. So the complementary of yellow is purple. The complementary of green is red. Okay, so if I'm wanting to make the yellow really stand out, I'm going to add some purple into it. The green to stand out, I'm going to put red. And now I'm not going to use the pure red that we have here, but Christmas-like. But what I will do is I will use a very red purple. Okay, so that's a little bit of blue, but a lot more red. And we will get this sort of dark reddy purpley color. And I will use that as my contrast in the shadow, but also works as a complementary color to make it stand out. Okay. Right, we're slowly losing daylight, but I have the lighting on. I feel bad, just like there's a bit in my eye. It feels weird. Next, what we are going to do, same as previous piece, we're going to go for the ferns. Now, I do love these ferns. They're very sad. They've just died. But what I can do is use my painting from last night as a reference. So I'm going to put in the greenery in the background. I'm going to put the fern up here and another one out here and maybe a leaf down here. So you can see that there. There's the leaf, the fern, and the other fern over here. I'm going to do that now. Great shape for a fern. So we can dab in all of those different directions that the fern sort of feathers off. Right, let's go. We'll do a little bit together then, because I will just do the same thing. I will start with the lightest green, then I will go to a darker green, and then I will put in a little bit of brown. And then the complementary of green is red. So you could use a red, dark red, or a red purple, or a little bit of red as a complementary color in there. Okay, let's go. Right, okay, so I am running out of green, so I'm going to mix some more. I'm going to lift some of the blue into the green. I might actually add a little bit of white in this time to make the green a little bit softer. Okay, it's more pastel and a tiny little bit of red to give it a brown tinge. Not that I'm going for full decay here, but I mean, should be. Right, I'm going to put this fern in. Now, first of all, your plants have to have a stem that ends up in your vase. There is no point putting a fern over here and starting that looks like it's coming down here. Doesn't make any sense. So this fern is coming from roughly here, and it was heading out round. Look how you can draw with that. Yeah, it's not a continual line, doesn't matter. Okay, and the other one then is heading off in this direction. Now, because I put the flowers in this vase, I know exactly where they're going, and I'm going to run it off my page. Yep, and then there's another little one, is somewhere right here. Oh, that's a bit thick. Doesn't matter. And there, and there's another little one coming out here. Right, let's work with that. Okay, I'm going to make my green a little more brownish, some red, some blue, a little bit more yellow in there. Just constantly mixing until you get the colour that you want. Don't use a colour that you don't want. No point. A little bit more white in there. Nice, so it'd be the same as a brush, should be washing each time, but if you can pick underneath, lift your paint, you get away with it. So, brownish green. Now, I'm going for up here. Same thing again, as last night I told you, you said last night, you maybe watched this and it'll be months away and you think, what is she talking about? The previous one that I had painted, I had talked about little crisscrosses to make up your fern. harder, of course, with palette knife because you have less control. But what you can do is you can drag and make your marks feathery by pressing in and twirling or leaning out. Experiment. This is exciting. Just have a wee go. There's no marks. You're not in school. Nobody cares if you make a mess. You're just experimenting to find how best to use an alternative tool. Okay. Now, the little fronds that come off it do not all come in uniform. They aren't all, generally they're getting longer as they go, but they're bending and they're twisting, okay? And you have thick paint underneath, wet paint underneath as well. So just play with that, make the most of it. Turn your knife around, draw into it, okay? And just work your way. Remember, this won't be seen afterwards. A lot of it will just be like a nice base. Just working your way into the canvas. The palette knife is my favourite. Every so often I get frustrated with it because I use it so often. I've had enough of that, and I go back to the paintbrush and think, oh, I love the paintbrush. You see, when I use the palette knife and you're really getting to be expressive with it, there's nothing like it. That's lovely. Right, I'm going to do the same with these other two, but I'm not going to make you watch me. I'm going to continue on, and so are you. I was going to finish this leaf without showing you, and then I thought, oh, it's a nice move. I want to show you putting in this leaf. See the one I said I was going to do down overlapping the vase at the front? I'm still using the same palette knife, and I probably won't change, but experiment away with whatever you like. You don't even have to, if you can't get one of these, use anything. Use a lollipop stick, use a disposable knife, disposable fork, skewer. These are my favourite. I love a cocktail stick or coffee stir, anything. Old debit card, same thing. Okay, look at this leaf here. Oh, hold on, there, it's that one. I have the point of it down here. I want it to curl a wee bit more. I am just leaning in on my palette knife. There's loads of paint under there, I can feel it moving. And I am just going to drag it up. Look how little work that was. And then what you can do is, I would draw in, rather than putting the vein in afterwards, just draw it in now. I don't draw every bit of it, just some of it. Huh. Done. Great. That's that. There's also another wee one up there. I'm going to do the same thing. Lean over. Now that's in there. And there's one out this direction. So I'm going to turn my knife over. I'm going to trail up from this direction this time. How easy that is. And then just draw in. Remember what it's called? Scraffito. It's like scraping, isn't it? Scrap. There we go. And there's another wee one down in there for when I go to do that daisy on the front. There. What about that? Now, the next one I'm going to add in is going to do the oranges. Okay, so I'm going to do these. There's quite a bit's fallen off them, but they both were orange on the top, lemon down into brown on the stem. There's the orange of these little flowers here that are trumpet-like, and there's some over at the other side. And then there's the big lupin, which is the spike going up. So I'm going to put the orange in. Now, you need to make sure your palette knife is really clean. So into the water and then wipe it off, because you don't want, we want the pink and the orange to be really nice and vibrant, like a nice pop, right? Orange first. Right, I'm going to add a little bit of white to that. See? Right, a little bit more red. See how I'm lifting underneath and up and mixing. You should get a nice, that's lovely. A bit more yellow. Mix it until it is the colour that you see, and white. Now, my advice is wash your palette knife before you start mixing, but you can this way, but change your colour a wee bit. Okay, right, let's go. We're going to put these 2 red hot pokers in. They are up here, and notice how I am using my palette knife to almost draw the lines and drag the paint over the top. That's the top of that one. Don't get too carried away. And this one, I would like this one to sort of run off the page a wee bit. I wonder, could I push it over enough for that? Okay, I'm going to move over. I'm going to do these wee orange flowers around here in the middle. Setting them on. Looking carefully, I'm not just making it up, I am looking at the shape of the petals. So even though you're abstracting it a wee bit and you're moving away from the detail, you're still not making up the shape. You're still looking at, is it triangular, is there a point at the edge of the petal and then getting broader down. And so you're observing that the whole time, but you're just you're having to try and find an alternative mark because you're using something awkward. Okay. Do you know your man Bob Ross that's on Sky paints all the time? You wonder how he makes it look so easy, just talking and painting at the same time. And finishing a whole painting like a perfect painting. Different gravy. Right. And there's some over here as well. It's sitting up around, and we're going to do all of them. But I want to hint that those wee flowers are there. Notice how I am turning my knife to use the point. And you're only putting in the base colour at this stage. There's one here, and the wee trumpets are coming down around. And then there's little buds coming around. Right, I'm going to go for this big spire at the back. I love the palette knife. See, as I'm painting this, I thought your other one was quite nice. This is my favourite one already, I'm not even done. My spire runs off, so I am going to start here. I wonder how thick that is. Do you know, I think I might have found a use for that knife. I said I didn't like. Look at the round end on it. I think that might be good. I might actually, if this is the first time I've ever used this, look, that is the knife for the job. I apologise for slagging this knife off for so long. It has a purpose. It's called a lupin. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add in lemon. So, oh, there's green in that. Right, it might be a peachy, greeny lemon. It's not too bad. Not too bad, right? And I'm going to add in little hints of lemon that I see. So there's some around here, down here. Over here, and these spiky boys. Red hot pokers, don't know the plant name. Should, but can't remember. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me finish all of these either, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do next. I'm going to continue on everywhere that I can see the yellow. There are also little bits of it up in and around here. And then the next colour I'm going to go for is the darker yellow or the orange, and I'm going to add that in the areas that are darker. Again, just carefully observing where everything is, so these get much darker as they start to go down. There's hardly anything left on that first stem now. And these the same, so as the petals go out, they're getting much darker. Now I am going to work on that. If you're painting along with me, you can do the same thing. Start to think really about your darks and your lights, working through your sort of colours in the colour wheel that are beside each other. So yellow is beside orange, which is beside red. Okay, so working on those. Then after I finish that, I will start to put in the shadows and the alternative colours. So I will work towards the browns. I'll put in the green stem, and because it's orange, my complementary is blue. Red, my complementary is green. Yellow, my complementary is purple. I will also use those in and around just to create areas of interest, to add depth and tone as well, because those are the two elements of art that will turn something from, or elevate it from 2D to 3D. Okay, so you get on with it, and I'm going to get on with it too. And when we meet again, we're going to go for the purple flower. I love how this is looking already. It's all lumpy and bumpy, like, you know, like ice creamy. Like you could almost, you wouldn't, but you could almost lick it. Yes, so we have all of these flowers in. You can see how they're sort of working through the colour wheel. We've got some of the complementaries in and little stems, so they all are in the flower vase. We're going to go for the purple ones now. That's these ones here, the Nepeta. They were sticking up, now they're sort of hanging their wee heads. If you want them to face any direction, just, you're the artist. We're not recreating a photograph here. We're taking artistic license where we feel. So if you would like them certain place, you can point them that direction. I would say try to stick to their form, really studying them. But if you feel like there's an area that needs a wee bit more interest in your painting, you can change that. I have mixed up a colour already, so I'm not faffing doing that. The colour of the Nepeta stems is a slightly different green. So they're like a nettle. That's what my husband thinks they are. Like a nettle, and they have a different sort of pastely green. Not like a sage. It's just more like a mucky turquoise. It's not a very accurate colour. I'm sure there is a name for it, but I can't hook it out of my brain right now. So I've mixed up a colour that is fairly similar to that of this vase, and I'm going to put it in to the Nepeta. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw their stem, because these have tiny little flowers. They're just like wee speckles of blue. Now they're purple, but they're in a blue purple over the top. So the stem is going to be the main structure, sort of like the bare bone of it, and then you're going to add the meat by putting on your little blue flowers. Yes, there's also similar little bell flowers to these, but they're in a more red purple than a blue purple, so we'll have to manipulate our colour a wee bit. But for start, let's get on the Nepeta stems again, making sure that they are coming out. Now they're in behind those flowers, so I'm going to draw up here. I'm going to take it off. Just going to take it off and drag that paint right up there off the top. There we go. Lovely. Then there's a little one that sort of comes out here again. It's in behind. I'm going to put it in there. And there's one here. Oh, there's an awful lot of paint on my palette knife. Just watching how it's coming off. There. Let's come down in here. I'll take it out there. There are other little things that are like sweeping up through. And there are a few wee ones that are like hanging out. I'll put them off there now. One there. Come out. Going to add a little bit of white to that. So much lighter version. Become more like toothpastey. And I'm going to add on the little leaves. Again, I'm just going to use the shape of my palette knife for that. So the leaf comes just before the flower head on the painting. So anywhere where you have a little leaf coming out, you will have a flower up above it. Now, there we go. A few more wee bits here. That's a lovely colour. So I think I might just add in wherever, and another wee leaf up there with it. Put it down here. Now, let's see. There. Constantly assess your composition and see if there's anything missing anywhere or there's too much of something somewhere. And because I love that the palette knife, you can just scratch out if it's not to your liking. There, I think I'm going to leave that at that. Now, wipe this off. I'm going to mix up this blue purple. So we have a purple made already, but I'm going to make that much bluer. I add lots of blue into it. Small amount of the red. Because I'm wanting it to really make the orange pop. And I'm going to add some white into because it is more pastel than bold. Blue purple. Now look at how it's going. Frothy little marks. Now where to put these in the paper set? Right. I'm not wanting them to be really definite because they are tiny little flowers. They're not big attention seekers like the lupin there at the back. Trailing down over, so I am barely touching the canvas, but I am trailing the purple paint over the top. Right. There are. I hope you're able to see that, but you'll be able to see at the end when I show you up close. I'll work those wee bits of purple in there and make it slightly bluer, a wee bit more blue. Added in especially in front of that. Now, I think that'll do me for now. I'm going to make up a nice red purple and get some of these wee bell flowers in. So mixing over much more red than blue this time, and white. That's that's a nice colour. There we go. That's the job, see? Almost like a burgundy, but still purple, blue in it. Right, let's put these in. There's a few in here. There's purple towards the end, and they're hanging down, and where they're starting to hang from is a very light lilac almost. There's one in there, and I'm being selective. I'm not doing them all. Am I going to do something? There. Add a wee bit of white just to lift it a wee bit more when I go in amongst all of this, well, green in here. So I'm going to put a few in there. There we go. And more white again. Don't think I'm going to touch in there. There we go. I should have some soothing music playing in the background, shouldn't I? There we go. So you can see there, that's all I'm going to do. I am going to add some white in now, just down below. I need to go and get more white. It's white in here and in here. And also what there is there's a tiny little bit of yellow that attaches onto the stem. There. See, this, all about less is more with your mark. It's not overworking anything, it's just putting little dabs on that hint at what is there rather than thinking about really, really accurate, painful detail. Same up here. A little bit of there. Now, those all need a little stem. I'm going to put that on. Scrape in there. Look at that. Right, we are nearly there. So there is a flower down here, and it's sort of just a very lime green. I'm not wanting to make too much of that, but I will put in just a few hints that it is there. It's called Lady's Mantle. Can't remember its other name at the minute. Alchemilla mollis. There you go. Just going to hint that it's in there. Now, so what I need is white. Need more of that, and I need more white. That one's not opened. It's not successful. There we go. Mix up a nice wee amount of, I need it to be lime green. I'm just going to put a few dots. That one there. Right, now we're nearly done. Can you believe it? How quick was that? we are going to put in our final, and I have no paint on me. We're going to put in our daisies. So we will start with the center, a bright yellow. Then in its shadows we will put orange and brown, and then we will add our white petals in. Now we don't want them to stick out like a sore thumb, we want them to blend in nicely, and sometimes when we add white on it looks like snow. So we will darken it down with a little bit of blue and the tiniest little bit of black. See how it goes, right? I am going to time lapse this so you can get on with it too. So you're putting in your yellow centers wherever you want to put them. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one out here, here, and maybe one up there. Not too many, I'm not going to put them all in, just going to put some in. See how we go. Right, I've got my yellow in. Let's do this last bit completely together. So again, with your stems, now to be honest, it's not much different to the Nepeta stem. It still has that sort of pastel green to it. So if you can see any of the stems, like from here, this one, I'm going to draw it in there, and this one too, it's hanging down. I'm going to draw that in. I can barely see it, but I know it's there at least. In there, and then finally this one up here. There we go. This one here is right. We're going to mix up the colour for our petals here. Okay, so remember I said white with blue. That's too much. More white then. And the tiniest little amount of black. I want to appear really grey, but just to take the sharp edge off the white. I am actually going to add a lot more white into that. There, that's better. Now, put on these petals. Okay, this one here is hanging down. Can't be too precious about it. I'm frustrated because I want it to look a certain way and it's not looking that way, but I'm using a palette knife and that's okay. Okay. This one here. Like, yeah, I'm not wanting to look like a child's drawing here. So the petals are different the whole way around. They're not all the same length and the same size. They're all different. I'm happy with that. Keep going. Go around. This one's slightly thicker. This one's sticking out a whole lot more. There we go. They're all straggly. They're all different. I grow lots of daisies in my garden for that reason, because I'm trying to blend the garden into the hedges and the fields. You can't really tell the difference, so they're all sort of hanging all over the place. If you're a perfectionist, my garden would be a nightmare for you. But I like them a wee bit wild. Now my yellow paint is quite wet under there, so I'm going to have to set the paint on quite thick, otherwise it's going to blend in. There we go. And is this my last one? I think it is. The last one up here at the top, and I can't see any petals around the top. They are just all hanging away from this one. Oh, the drip. And there we go. I think we're finished. So what I will do now is I will just go around everything and check that everything has a stem, that there are no gaps down here, that some areas there might be a wee bit darker, missing some maybe foliage in around here. I will pad that out a wee bit. Have a look that everything has its shadow and it stands out nicely enough. And then I will show you a close-up. Right, I think I'm done. There you go. Looking lovely and thick. That is. That's me finished. That's it. And that one will be all. That's me finished. Finally, these flowers can be thrown out and the setup taken time, but I am done. That's the paint brush, which I thought I really liked. I do still really like it. But this is the palette knife. Palette knife's my thing. I love this one. I'm not sure, I might keep this one, or I might put it in the wee competition too. What do you think? There we go. 2 of them. And here's the thing, there'll be 3 of them because I'm going to paint the same thing again on Monday. But I am done for tonight. It is time for a cup of tea and I don't know, maybe a digestive, maybe a custard cream, who knows.